Can everyone hear me? I will also be selling books after the presentation as well for $20. I'll sign them with anything you want me to say. And I'll meet and greet properly, too. So, I'm here tonight because of a lot of people who pushed me and my talent and helped me out. So I'm going to ask you a question, and I really want a response. What makes a good writer?
Imagination.
That's one step. What's another?
Desire.
Okay, but what are the tools?
Having the words in your vocabulary, having the background, and being open to explore new entities.
That's all good and nice, but
Practice.
good. That's one major step. But as my creative writing teacher, Mark Brown at IVCC said, we need two things to make a writer. One, the writer needs to write every opportunity he or she gets, and they need to read. Too many people these days don't read enough. When you combine those elements together, you can write anything. And he should know. He knows many famous poets. Creative writing is an enjoyable process, and it does help us. It gives us a direction. But besides direction, we need to know what we're going to do with it. We need to be open to criticism and a tone of voice that portrays our story. We need an idea, and we need to understand the market. Those are the steps I went into when I got into this business. I first started writing when I was 3 years old. I dictated my first story to my mother. It was about a Lisa Frank stencil that had a penguin and a ballerina bunny going on a date and arguing over a gumball machine. Since then, I have practiced and practiced. I entered and won Young Authors both in 7th and 8th grade. I was published 3 times in the Impressions magazine at LP, and I became the book critic for the Ivy Leader, the college paper. I'm also a well-respected fanfiction.net writer. I've got 22 stories, over 1,000 reviews, and I'm on 54 people's hit list. You need to practice, and you'll get better. When I first started fanfic writing, I ran my sentences together. I forgot commas, semicolons. Heck, my spelling was worse than a 3rd grader's. But over the years, I've gotten much, much better. I've had awesome people help me out, like Mrs. Sue Johnson in the audience. She took the time to edit and help me. She didn't think I was crazy. When I wrote my book, I wrote it as a bet. You see, we were running the track in gym class, and I was getting sick and tired of people going on and on about desperate housewives and any other thing like Grey's Anatomy and stuff. And I was like, okay, enough. Do you guys read? Is this why your reading skills are so poor you can't even pronounce a simple word? Turns out I was right. You see, I've had a college level reading level since I was in 8th grade. I wrote this book to try something, to prove that I could have a dream come true. It was very, very hard. I had to come up with characters, and I had to think of personalities, and I had to think of things that they could get into, that people could relate to. Some people might say I'm a little too descriptive. Some people might not agree at all with my writing style. But that's the point. It's my style. You need a unique style, and you need to understand other people's styles as well. If you don't, how are you going to review them? How are you going to help them? In my style, I try to give a description the first time you meet the character, so you have that picture in your head. as you can see, that's what I did with Star and Nova. I came up with a description that matched the inner persona of me. I wanted Star to be everything I couldn't be, but I wanted to be. And I wanted Nova to represent all the darkness and desires I was seeing in my twin at the time, and wish she would change. Also, you need to work on the wording. Normal words are going to be okay at first, but you need a mix, like behoovement, capricious, any other word that you don't normally use. Just once in a while to stir things up. Because if you don't, people are going to be, oh, that is so dull, I want to fall asleep. Next, you need to write an outline. Outline everything. Start with what you really want as your main idea. And then section by section, write down what's going to happen in that chapter. But leave room for flexibility. You might come up with something better at another point in time. Then start writing the rough draft. Don't care if it's not perfect. Rough drafts aren't supposed to be perfect. They're just everything you can get down on that piece of paper at once. Then after you've done the rough draft, go over it yourself. Try to nitpick. See what you think needs improvement. Then the hard part. You got to take that rough draft and give it to many different people, preferably someone who has a better English degree than you do. You have to be willing to listen to their tone, listen to their ideas. They might tell you, change the tense. An action voice sounds better in present tense. They might tell you to compress it. You're doing too much. They might tell you that's not working. Try something different. The point is they're trying to help. And if they don't say it in a tone of voice that is both a little authoritative but yet helpful, you're not going to change it. After that, go over and finish the final product. Go and do it again. Get the final product evaluated, and after that, it's done. See what happens next. My own experience was this. It took me 6 months of hard work. I had to find loose leaf, and I had to tear out pages from notebooks and write the rough draft. I had to stay after school and get it photocopied so I could see the corrections more clearly. I had to organize all those pages. And then it took me forever to type it up. 2.5 months to type it up. Because I wanted everything to be perfect. And I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything or my editor didn't miss anything. After that, I printed out my first final draft, because there will be many final drafts. I then shared it with other people. And once they said, okay, it's good enough, you did it, you wrote a great novel, here's a few other things you should work on. I did that. I started looking for an agent. I went online and typed in Illinois literary agents. I had to refine the search. It took me a couple tries, but I did find an agency, the Children's Literary Agency, and they agreed to help me. But I learned after they sent a contract for a year's worth of work that I was being gypped.